Hi, this is Jim Blizzard. Thanks for stopping by. I'm going to do a brief demonstration on creating web tests and load tests using Visual Studio 2010. Hope you enjoy it. We've got snowstormlife.com, the blog engine, sitting down here on my local machine. Ran into some problems during dev connections. Turns out I wasn't connected to the internet. I had a cached image. We'll take a look at what was going on. So first let me run the application. Brings up the website. We can browse around. We're running locally here, so everything's running on IIS Express using port 31118 down here, IIS Express. So we can navigate through to various pages. I've just created a small database of some of the entries inside of here. All right, so there's the application. IIS Express is running fine. All right, now we want to create a web test of this because the session was all about web test and load test and performance. All right, so to do that, I'm going to go to the test menu and create a new test. And this is going to be a web performance test. We'll just let it default to, we'll change the name, demo web test 1. We'll tell it OK. When we do that, it brings up Internet Explorer. Inside Internet Explorer, it has this nice little toolbar that allows us to record, pause, and stop. So we'll navigate to the website. And we'll go to our IIS Express website. And notice it recorded the HTTP traffic that I sent to the server. It's keeping track of what's going on, sending it to, and the response back from the server. So as I navigate around through here, it's capturing each of the actions inside the list right here. Okay, so we'll let that be user scenario 1. Okay, we'll stop the recording. Now it'll run through the test real quickly. As it goes through the test, it'll detect any dynamic parameters that it might have. All right. So now that it's gone through that action, let's go ahead and run it. Let's make sure that everything looks okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and click on Run Test. And interesting. What's up with this? We've got gobs and gobs of failures going on here. And this is what happened during the dev connection session. It was like, oh, what? It's not supposed to do that. Turns out every time I had been prepping the session, I was connected to the internet. And I thought I had brought everything down, but as I down to the local machine, but if I had just simply expanded this node, clicked on this button right here, or this entry, I would have seen that, hey, the request failed. I couldn't resolve snowstormlife.com. Again, I'm not connected to the internet at this point. All right, so let's go take a look. How is that working then? How did it record it to begin with? So HTTP, localhost. And if we go take a look at the properties for the RSS button, we can see RSS button.gif. Okay, that's cool, but notice we got a cache file and it's caching from snowstormlife.com. All right, so the browser doesn't care. The browser says, hey, I've got it in my cache. I'm just going to serve it up here, save some time. If we look at the details here, notice this again is for RSS button GIF. It couldn't find it on snowstormlife.com. Okay, to get past that problem, I'm just going to go simply back over here to my site master inside of my views. I'm using an MVC2 model on this. So let me go down to site master, scroll down just a bit, and this is where my link is. And I did not update that link. Okay, so save some time. I'm just going to comment out that reference. So now I don't have a reference to it. Let me run the website one more time. So now the image doesn't show up because I'm not referencing it, even though it does have it cached. I just blew away the reference to it. Let's go back over to the web test. Let's run it. And bingo, we get a whole bunch of successes instead of a whole bunch of failures. So this last one is about to wrap up. We'll let that go. All right. So that passed. If we look at the request, we can see a lot of information about that. We can see information about the response. There are ways to go in and do validation about the results that come back. So a whole lot of stuff that are pretty handy as you're looking at tests. Okay, so now let's add a second user scenario. So we had one, a very very quick run through. Let's go ahead and create a little bit more exhaustive scenario, another user profile. This one's going to be a little bit more interested in the website, and so they're going to hit a couple more of the pages. So we're going to create a new test. This is also a web performance test, demo web test 2. We're once again going to go to localhost. All right, so notice nothing's showing up this time. We'll click on the about. They're really interested in that, and they're going to browse through every one of the posts that we have here. All right, so I only have 4 posts on my local version of this. Okay, so there we are. We'll go back to the about page. Who? What? What was that? Okay. As though they were really interested in the website. All right, so that's a user scenario 2. And you can combine user scenarios as we go through a load test. We'll do that in just a minute. All right, so it's walking through the, running through the test one more time. It's looking for any dynamic parameters. If it finds any, it'll promote them. And of course it doesn't because I'm not using that. All right, so let's run this just to make sure that it works successfully. So here it's going through, everything looking good. All right, and we'll let this finish completely. All right. So now we've got 2 tests, and let's create a load test at this point. As I talked about in the Dev Connection session, there are a bunch of different types of tests. There are smoke tests, stress tests, soak tests, all sorts of different types of tests. This time we're going to create first a smoke test. And a smoke test is just simply plugging in the toaster oven to make sure that it doesn't blow any smoke after I just repaired the thing. You know, I got there with my soldering iron, it wasn't working. I plug it in afterwards. It's like I just want to plug it in for a second just to see if everything's looking okay. So we're going to use the default settings on most of these items as we go through this wizard. We'll just do a constant load of 25 users. Keep on going through. We'll just add demo web test 1, just the first test in there. And then keep the LAN setting, the browser setting, everything else okay. We're not going to run it for 10 minutes. We're going to run it for, let's say, 30 seconds. Again, we're just seeing if it's at least going okay. And we'll tell it finish. All right, so now here we have a view into our test. At this point, we could do a lot of extra things. We're not going to do that because we just want to do a quick demo of what running a smoke test might look like. So I'm going to click on Run Test. It builds. It starts it up in progress. I'm going to double click here so I can bring up this smoke test watch window. All right, so as it's running along, we're getting updates on the counters. Notice that our number of users, user load total, it's 25 all the way across. We're getting updates on our page response time is going across, looking at the controllers and agents, how are the machines that we're running against going, in addition to the system under test. Okay, so that finishes up, providing results to the repository, and then it shows us a summary view. And I can go back in and look at the graphs. I can pull up an individual graph if I want to see a little bit better detail. So let's just do one panel of key indicators. So 25 users across the test, load test pages, average page response time, I believe that is. Yeah, average page time. Okay, so we've got some good information. It looks good enough. Let's go ahead and run a stress test against it. So to do that, I need to create a stress test. All right. So in a stress test, you're looking for, where does the application fall over? So is it the application? Is it the server? Is this percent CPU spike at a particular point? The number of pages that it can serve spike at some particular point, and then starts falling over, just like a doctor would order a stress test. If you're going in for a physical or something, make sure that your heart is doing okay, takes your bodily measurements and all that. All right, so this is going to be a stress test 1, different type of load test. We're going to still take normal distribution on the recorded think times. This time we're going to bring up load. We're going to step through our load as we're going through here. So the start count will start at 50, because this is going to be a stress test. And every 5 seconds, we're going to add another 20 people for a maximum of 500 users. I'm running on a laptop. We'll see how that does. So I'll click next. We'll keep the same test mix model. So this time I'm going to add the demo web tests 1 and 2. So I've got both of the tests going there. Number 2 was the more heavyweight. So it's typically, I can set the distribution. There's usually a smaller percentage who are really interested in looking at every page on the website. So we'll reduce that down to about 25%. So if you had an e-commerce site, you've got a shopping cart, you've got a lot of people browsing the site, fewer people might add things to the cart, even fewer people might actually go all the way through checkout and order something. So that this is one way you would set up the distribution for that. We'll keep the LAN settings, Internet Explorer 7. We'll keep the default settings. Now this time I'm going to run it a little bit longer. I'm going to run it for, well, 2 minutes. Plenty of time for recording anyway. And we'll let it warm up for 20 seconds. So before I start counting or taking keeping track of the performance counters as we're going through, let's let it get warmed up, and then we'll see how it goes from there. Okay, so now that we've got all that set up, we will finish, and it'll create our settings here. Right, so now we've got our stress test. Let's go ahead and run it. So we click on run. It starts up the testing process. It brings us over to the in results, the results page, in progress page. Notice it's warming up as it's going. It's not really keeping track of anything until here we go. All right, so now we're going to go for 2 minutes. We've given it a little bit of time to warm up. And we'll see how it goes. Let's see what our user count is. This is usually one way to see how we're doing. So we've got a max of 90 users at this point. Every 5 seconds, we're adding 20 more people. We're already up to 110. This might fall over real fast. Who knows? And this page response time, that's looking real interesting. We've got one page that looks, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. So we'll do one panel on the page response time. Who is this? It's not that page. It's the page 3 get. Page 3 seems like it's having a little bit of problems. Every page spiked there for just a minute, or for just a second as we went through a minute and 10 seconds. But page 3 is consistently bad. So we'll take a look at what's going on with that. With the MVC, the way the processing works, most of the work is done in the blog controller. So we'll take a look at the blog controller and see if something might be going on there. It might be something with the database. Might be some network issues. There are a whole lot of different things that can cause your application, especially a web application or an end-tier application, not to perform well. So you have to use some tools to take a look at various areas. Yeah, as we're getting farther and farther in, everything's starting to spike just a little bit. So we may have hit the elbow. You can see that everything was running along fine here, and then we hit a big bump in the road, and then started spiking as we went. So the thing's about to end. We had 3 threshold validations, or violations rather. We'll see what that is in just a second. Okay, so now we're to the summary page. Let's go over to our graph and take a look. And it's easy to get a particular segment of time. You can just change the scale. We can see that we were doing real well, except for that one little blip right here. And then it just started falling over. So we'll look at our key indicators. About that same time frame, how many users were we up to? About 240 users. User load 390 users, I'm sorry, 390 at that point in time. So we'll take another look at the summary page for just a second. And then now we'll go take a look at the blog controller. There's our blog controller. It's doing most of the work here. And we'll go on into the, it goes by the order of checks for blogs, and then it goes to the action result of Blizz. And kind of set this up so that we can find it. If the ID equals 3, then we do a little bit of a delay. We just sleep for up to 5 seconds. Okay, so let's comment out this code. Little performance improvement within 10 seconds, right? Didn't take long to do that. I'm gonna go ahead and run this real quick. Make sure I didn't break anything. And that ran. I just clicked on page 3. All right, so now I'll go back over to stress test 1. I went to my test view and run the selection again. And we'll see how this does. Okay, so now we're still warming up, and then here we go. So I'm going to add a couple more screens to the view. Let's do 2 horizontal panels. We've got key indicators and page response time. So in the key indicators, we get a list of how many users are we running, up to 110 right now. Page response time, self-explanatory. All right, at a minute 10 seconds, that's where we had a spike last time. We'll see what happens at a minute 10 seconds here. Notice page 3, we don't have anything that's really skyrocketing here. This one page, this average page time for the about page. For some reason, the very first time we hit it, it took a little bit longer than normal, but ever since then. All right, so at minute 10, we did spike a little bit. Let's see how we do as we get on over here towards the end of the test. If you have a bigger screen, I'm running in 1024 by 768. Bigger screen would be able to show you a little bit better resolution on these. I can also do that. All right, notice we had a bit of a spike there at a minute and 35 seconds. We're spiking again as we're getting up around, I don't know, how many users are we sitting on? Woof! And right there at the end, we sent it to the moon. All right, so we may have reached the limits of what the laptop that I'm running on, what our test machine can do. So then it's a matter of extrapolating what does this hardware look like compared to what our production hardware looks like. So we got rid of the problems on page response time for number 3. It was definitely much, much better than before. And even with these spikes, notice now our spikes aren't nearly as high as they were before. Our maximum page response time looks like 0.88 seconds instead of over 2 or 3 seconds. So how do I compare that one? It'd be great. I'd love to be able to see over time how have these test runs done. And it's very easy to get that information just by going to clicking on this button here and opening up an Excel report. I'm going to create a report. I'm going to do it based on trend. You could also run based on run comparison. I'm just going to go over trend and this load test was from stress test 1, right? We'll do next. We just want these last 2 that we've run just recently. 145, yep, those are the last 2 that we ran. And we'll let it do its thing. So now it's going through, it's comparing all the values, all the data values for the performance counters that it captured, and it's bringing back those results. Okay, once it's finished, then you can look at interesting things like average page time. How do we do? This is the first run, number 54, and then number 55, second run. So you can see that we were significantly lower, much faster on the page time. So not bad, not bad. So let's go back to the table of contents. The number of pages per second, that increased from 70 to about 85. Each page looks like it improved as well. Number of requests per second looks good over time. We've definitely increased the number of requests per second that we're able to handle. Notice also, again, I'm running on IIS Express on a laptop here. My database is just a SQL Compact database as well, so everything's running here locally. All right, one more report. Let me go ahead and do a comparison report of the 2, not the trend report. So click on that, just show you an example of what it looks like. Create a report, comparison. Hit next. We'll take the, oops, don't want this. We want stress test 1. We want those last 2 runs again, not all the runs. We just want the ones that I've run lately. And we'll finish, because we're comparing apples to apples. Same test run to same test run. All right, so creates 3 little reports for us. Comparison run and baseline. So the baseline, average test time, 30 seconds. And then down below 25 seconds. All right, so we're improving over time. Page comparison, let's take a look at that. Baseline, whew, wow. Blogs Blizz 3, so page 3, that third blog post, significant improvement. It used to, before it was about almost 3 3/4, so over 3.5 seconds, and now it's down below a half second, about a quarter second response time. Um, and by fixing that one problem that I had, it fixed a whole lot of different things. So we can look at the changes from the percent change from the baseline, and we can see that that's looking well as well, looking good as well. So then also you get to take a look at what are the two different machines look like, and how are they doing. So just solid information about that as well. So percent change, green is good, red is bad. So got a little bit on the percent processor time. Interesting. We used more CPU in the second run because we weren't sitting there in a sleep mode, I suppose. Anyway, there we go. Some performance testing, some load testing within Visual Studio 2010.